The object crossed the screen in less than a second. No wings, no exhaust, no visible control surfaces. Just a metallic-looking sphere moving beneath an American MQ-9 drone, somewhere over the Middle East. The camera tracked it. The object vanished beyond the edge of the frame. And that should have been the end of the story. But when the footage reached the Pentagon, analysts were left with an answer that sounded almost more unsettling than a conclusion. They did not know what it was. The official video is short. It does not show an alien craft. It does not show impossible acceleration, a disabled missile battery, or an object breaking the laws of physics. In fact, the Pentagon office assigned to investigate unexplained aerial sightings later stated that the sphere displayed no clearly anomalous behavior at all. And yet, it remained unidentified. That distinction matters, because mystery begins where evidence ends, and where the human mind starts filling the silence. The clip became known simply as the Middle East object. It was recorded by an MQ-9, one of the most sophisticated surveillance aircraft operating in modern war zones. The drone was built to find, follow, and classify objects from miles away. Its sensors can distinguish vehicles, heat sources, and movement on the ground with extraordinary precision. But on this occasion, an apparently simple object passed through its field of view and escaped identification. Not because it performed a spectacular maneuver, not because it attacked, because there was not enough reliable information to say what it was. A balloon is possible. So is a drifting object whose speed appeared greater because the camera platform itself was moving. Distance, size, wind, viewing angle, and sensor behavior can transform an ordinary object into something extraordinary on a two-dimensional screen. Without precise range data, even basic questions become traps. Was the sphere small and close, or large and distant? Was it moving rapidly, or was the drone creating the illusion of speed? Did its surface reflect sunlight, or did image processing give it a metallic appearance? The honest answer to each question is the same. We do not know. But the location changes how that answer feels. The Middle East is not empty sky. It is one of the most intensively watched regions on Earth. A layered environment of military radar, surveillance aircraft, civilian aviation, satellites, electronic warfare, and weapons systems belonging to nations that do not trust one another. Every signal may be interpreted as a threat. Every unidentified object may trigger a chain of decisions made by people separated from it by thousands of miles. In that environment, uncertainty is not academic. It can be lethal. Imagine the operator watching the feed. There is no need to invent a name or claim access to a classified testimony. The screen is enough. Hours of desert terrain pass beneath the aircraft. Roads, compounds, dry riverbeds, heat blooming from engines and rooftops. The mission depends on categorization. Friendly, hostile, civilian, animal, vehicle, debris. Then something appears that fits none of the available labels. For 1 second, the system designed to turn the world into identifiable targets confronts an object it cannot name. That is the real fracture at the heart of the footage. Modern military power depends not only on weapons, but on certainty. A radar return must become a track. A track must become an identity. An identity must become a decision. The machine is supposed to remove ambiguity from the battlefield. The sphere puts ambiguity back in. When officials presented the clip publicly, they did not declare it extraterrestrial. They did not announce evidence of gravity manipulation or interdimensional travel. They said it remained unresolved. That cautious language disappointed people who wanted a revelation, but it preserved the most important fact in the case. Unresolved does not mean impossible. It means the available evidence cannot support a final conclusion. Much of the mythology surrounding unidentified aerial phenomena is built between those two ideas. A blurred light becomes a craft. Unknown movement becomes hypersonic acceleration. missing data becomes proof that the decisive evidence was classified. But none of that is automatically contained in the image. This is how a genuine mystery can be buried beneath a better story. And the Middle East object is not alone. Military and civilian observers have reported spheres, lights, and other apparently simple shapes for decades. Some cases are later resolved as balloons, aircraft, drones, birds, satellites, optical effects, or sensor artifacts. Others remain open because the records are incomplete. A small, unresolved remainder survives, not as proof of visitors, but as proof that even advanced observation systems have limits. Modern UAP investigations include reports of round or orb-like objects, seen visually or through infrared systems. But similar descriptions do not establish a common origin. A balloon and an unknown aircraft can occupy the same category on a bad screen. The shape itself creates another problem. A sphere offers almost nothing for the eye to interpret. There is no nose to indicate direction, no tail to reveal orientation, no wing to suggest lift, and no visible front or back. It can appear motionless even while rotating. It can look controlled while drifting. Under compression and glare, a complex object can collapse into a featureless orb. The sphere is therefore the perfect container for projection. To a skeptic, it is probably a balloon. To a believer, it is probably a probe. To a military analyst, it is a frustrating cluster of missing variables. Each observer looks at the same empty surface and sees a different possibility reflected back. But there is a darker reason the footage continues to attract attention. The object was recorded through the eye of a weapon platform. The MQ-9 is a surveillance aircraft, but its identity is inseparable from the wars in which it is operated. Its camera can observe human beings who may never know they are being watched. An operator on another continent can follow a vehicle, study a pattern of movement, and remain present above a location without being seen from the ground. The technology turns distance into intimacy. It allows one person to witness another person's final hours through a screen. Then, inside that same screen, a second watcher appeared. We do not know whether the sphere was watching anything. It may have had no sensor, no intelligence, and no connection to the activity below. It may not even have been close to the area the camera seemed to place behind it. But the image creates an irresistible reversal. Humanity built a machine to observe the battlefield, and the machine captured something that seemed to observe it in return. That reversal is where the darkest hypothesis begins, not as fact, not as leaked testimony, as a question. If a non-human intelligence wanted to study our species, where would it look? At our cities? Our laboratories? Our temples? Perhaps. But war zones reveal behaviors that peaceful environments conceal. Fear overrides manners. Loyalty collides with survival. Technology and instinct operate side by side. Governments expose capabilities they hide in peacetime. Individuals make irreversible choices in seconds. A battlefield compresses politics, biology, engineering, courage, cruelty, and death into a single observable system. To a detached intelligence, it might resemble a laboratory we constructed for ourselves. That possibility does not require a sphere to collect souls, read thoughts, or measure a mystical energy released at death. There is no evidence that the Middle East object scanned human bodies or recorded neural activity. Science has observed unusual patterns of brain activity in a small number of dying patients, but researchers have not established that these signals represent a final burst of consciousness. Nothing in the video connects the objects to those studies. The more defensible nightmare is simpler. An advanced observer would not need to harvest anything invisible. Our visible behavior would be enough. How quickly do we identify a threat? When do we fire? Which lives do we protect? Which casualties do we hide? How does a population respond after an attack? How rapidly do weapons evolve when fear is introduced into the system? These are measurable questions. Our aircraft, radio traffic, movement patterns, explosions, and decisions would provide an ocean of data without requiring the observer to understand a single human emotion. We already study other species this way. Researchers place cameras near nests, watering holes, and migration routes. They attempt not to intervene because intervention changes behavior. When an animal is hunted, injured, or killed, the camera continues recording. Its lack of action is not cruelty. It is the rule of observation. From inside the frame, however, that neutrality would look monstrous. Imagine realizing that the intelligence above you could intervene, but chooses not to. It does not attack, negotiate, rescue, or warn. It simply preserves the event. Your terror becomes behavior. Your loss becomes a timestamp. The collapse of a city becomes one more entry in a study that may have begun before anyone alive was born. This idea appears repeatedly in stories about unexplained objects near military activity. Reports are often connected to nuclear installations, training ranges, warships, and combat zones. Some accounts are supported by official records. Others depend on memories, rumors, or retellings that grew more dramatic over time. The pattern is tempting, but temptation is not proof. Military areas are also where the most sophisticated sensors operate, and where secret human technology is most likely to be tested. More eyes produce more anomalies. More secrecy produces more speculation. History offers a warning. During the Second World War, pilots reported strange lights that followed aircraft and became known as Foo Fighters. The reports were real. Their interpretation was uncertain. Pilots considered enemy weapons, electrical effects, optical phenomena, and possibilities they could not name. Later generations folded many of those accounts into UFO mythology. But resemblance across decades does not establish identity. A light described in 1944 and a sphere filmed by an MQ-9 do not become the same machine merely because both are unexplained. The connection remains a story we tell across gaps in the evidence. Yet those gaps have power. They survive because uncertainty threatens the hierarchy on which modern security is built. A conventional enemy can be mapped. Its aircraft have ranges, fuel limits, factories, pilots, and political objectives. Even a superior weapon belongs to a chain of command. It can be deterred, stolen, copied, sabotaged, or destroyed. An unidentified object offers none of those comforts. It has no declared nation, no obvious motive, no known cost. Perhaps it is ordinary and only appears mysterious because the data is poor. But until it is identified, planners must hold multiple possibilities in mind. That burden alone can alter behavior. A harmless balloon and a revolutionary surveillance platform may look identical during the few seconds in which a decision must be made. This is why the real danger of UAP is not necessarily invasion. It is uncertainty inside systems designed to act before certainty is possible. A pilot sees an object. Radar offers an ambiguous return. Intelligence databases produce no match. Commanders must decide whether to approach, ignore, jam, or fire. Now, add rival nations monitoring the same airspace. One side may interpret the response of another as preparation for attack. The unidentified object does not need a weapon. Human suspicion can supply the weapon for it. In that sense, the sphere does not have to violate physics to expose our vulnerability. It only has to remain unnamed. Better multi-sensor collection can establish range and speed, while weather records and flight data can eliminate ordinary explanations. But transparency has limits in military environments. A government may conceal footage because releasing it would reveal where a sensor operated or what it could detect. Classification protects capabilities. It also creates the empty space in which extraordinary claims flourish. The public sees a few seconds. Officials see more, but cannot always show it. Believers assume the missing portion contains proof. skeptics assume it contains an ordinary explanation. Both positions can become acts of faith. The Middle East object remains trapped between them. Maybe future analysis will identify it as a balloon, debris, or another unremarkable object. That would still demonstrate how easily sensors and perception can manufacture apparent strangeness. Or perhaps the necessary data was never collected, and the case will remain unresolved forever. Not because the answer is beyond human science, but because the object crossed the frame once and never gave us a second chance. There is also the possibility, unsupported, extraordinary, but impossible to erase from the imagination, that the sphere belonged to something outside our known systems. If so, the most chilling detail is not how it moved. It is how little attention it appeared to pay us. No dramatic arrival, no message, no demand to meet our leaders. It passed the camera as if the drone, the conflict below, and the species that built both were features of a landscape, rather than participants in a historic encounter. Human beings expect contact to be about humanity. We imagine visitors crossing the darkness to conquer us, save us, study our culture, or answer our questions. Every scenario places us at the center. But an intelligence capable of reaching this planet might not regard us as the subject of its mission. The sphere could have been observing the atmosphere, mapping electromagnetic activity, tracking another object, or following an instruction written so long ago that its creators no longer exist. We may have appeared in its data only accidentally. That is a colder possibility than invasion. An invader confirms that we matter. Indifference does not. Still, we must return to the evidence. One short video cannot carry the weight of that conclusion. It gives us no verified speed, no confirmed material, no propulsion system, and no proof of intelligence. The correct ending to the official case is not alien, balloon, or probe. It is unresolved with the available information. But the psychological case remains open. For a moment, a machine built to watch an unstable world encountered a blank shape it could not classify. The sphere offered no explanation, and humanity supplied dozens. Each theory revealed something, not necessarily about the object, but about us. Our fear of hidden enemies, our distrust of institutions, our desire to believe the universe is occupied, and beneath it all, our dread that something may be looking back, without feeling anything at all. So look at the footage again. Ignore the stories added afterward. Ignore the impossible speeds nobody measured, and the secret technologies nobody demonstrated. Watch only the object crossing the frame. Is it evidence of a visitor? Or evidence of how quickly uncertainty becomes mythology when it appears above a battlefield? Tell me which explanation you find most convincing. An ordinary object distorted by distance and sensors, a classified human platform, or something operating outside every category we know. Leave your theory in the comments, subscribe, and follow the next unresolved case into the dark. The object disappeared in a second. The question remains in the shadow ledger.